Welcome to the Rising from the Ashes podcast. I'm your host, Amy Grace, obsessed with coffee, cowboy boots, and deep relationships. I'm on a mission to help you find the gold in your story through faith, family, and wellness, because I believe your story can break you wide open to live a beautiful, abundant, and vibrant life. I'll share with you how the hard seasons and difficult circumstances can become a catalyst of growth that often lead into some of the most beautiful stories we've ever told. I'm so grateful you're here. Grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're talking about something that hits close to home for a lot of us: perfection. You know, that pressure to hold it all together, to be the good mom, the strong woman, the one who makes it look easy. We start chasing perfect like it's holy, but somewhere along the way, it becomes heavy and it becomes a prison. Today, I've got Tori on, and she wrote these words: "What if he has a heaven-sized, holy-filled, real love dream waiting for you, but it's going to cost you your perfection?" Wow, that one will stop you in your tracks. And that one went straight to my heart. In this conversation, we're diving into what it really means to trade perfect for real. Because as Tori says, God wants more than perfect for you. He wants real. He wants the real you. The I don't know what I'm doing, coffee-fueled, overstimulated, underappreciated you. Today's episode is an invitation to exhale, to loosen your grip on all the striving, and remember that God already did the perfect part. You just get to be you. So let's lean in, take a deep breath, and talk about what happens when perfection becomes a prison and how to find freedom in the real. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to have you on.
I'm honored you asked me. It's so sweet. I don't really know if I have anything valuable to say, but you can try. And if you hate it at the end, you can just cut me out and I won't be offended.
I think you've got so much to say, Tori. When you first teased the blog that you were writing, I thought you were going to announce a podcast or something. And I was like, I could totally see her doing this. She'd be perfect. Anyways.
You're so sweet. I just don't know. I'm better at writing it down than talking about it live like you. I feel like that's such a skill that I do not have. So props to you for that. Maybe far off in the future.
Listen, girl, some of us just jump in and wing it.
Right?
Because I'm so introverted. I'm like, I never envisioned myself here just like talking. The idea of it really scares me. But yeah, I like the conversation.
And you're using your gift to educate so many people on how to walk in his way in so many different ways. There's no cookie cutter way to do it. Mm-hmm. And so the interviews and stuff that you're doing are teaching people to do that. And I think that that's so valuable in today's world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Of course.
Well, listen, today I want to unpack what happens when striving for perfect actually keeps us trapped. And how letting go might be the most freeing thing we can actually do. So when I read your blog post, that line that you wrote where you said, "When perfection becomes a prison," that one line stopped me in my tracks. Because how often do we wear that perfectionism like an armor when really it's the very thing that's holding us back? And I have struggled with perfectionism probably my whole life. And honestly, how many of us are walking around exhausted from trying to be everything for everyone when, like you said in your blog, all God ever asked us to be was real. So I want to jump into that today, and we'll just start off with what led you to write that piece?
Yeah. I think we grew up pretty similarly in that I have a few siblings that are all younger than me, and my dad was military and SWAT, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and we grew up very regimented, but very performative is the wrong word. We were just driven to do things, right? And it's not a bad thing at all. I want my kids to be driven. But I saw my parents striving, and now that I'm a parent, I look back at everything that they did with a totally different set of eyes. Like when you get
Absolutely.
married, I think when you get married, I think you have one impression of how your parents are. And then when you have kids, you get another impression of how your parents
Yes.
were, right? And then when you tackle your marriage with your kids, you get a totally other impression of your parents. And so I've just been sitting in the truth of everything that my parents did and everything that they conquered. And it just really hit me that the lie was broken, that they never wanted me to be perfect. Like they just wanted to know who I was, because that's all that I want from my kids. All I want to know is who they are. I don't care about the great. I don't care about the bad. I just want to know who they are. And in having kids and exploring that, I've realized that that is what God wants for us too. He just wants to know who we are. And the funny part is he created us, right? Like he already knows who we are. He already sees our good and our bad. And it's like when you have a little kid and they've eaten chocolate and it's all over their face and they're like, "No, I didn't have chocolate." And you're like, "I see it. But just tell me. Like just tell me about it. Bring me into that." And God just wants us to bring him in. And I've just been sitting in that reality these last few weeks of having a new baby, that like I don't know what makes him tick with everything, but I just want to know more about him. And I'm not the perfect mom by any means. And God just kind of wrapped me up one night when I was really having a breakdown about not being good enough to figure out what was going on. And he was like, "I love you no matter what is happening here, no matter how your kids perform, no matter how your marriage is, no matter how your relationships are, no matter what mask you put on, like, I love you despite that." And it's just so powerful because that's how we love our kids.
Yeah.
Like we love our kids despite all of that. But we get so wrapped up in trying to give them the perfect life and the American dream that we miss giving them the beauty of the cross, because we're focused on the beauty of material things to try to make their life magical. And so I just have been sitting in that truth and trying to figure out how I can do that for my kids. And that's what led me to write it. I was like, maybe one day they will read this and see what their mom was thinking and when she was thinking it and why. Because I'm just figuring it out as I go. Really, I feel like hopefully we all are. But it was also just to help moms see they're not alone. Like
Yeah.
I'm figuring out how to do it just as much as you are. And I don't think people think of perfectionist when they look at me. They probably think of a hot mess. But I hope eventually when people get to know my heart and get to know the heart of my kids, that's when they see that, well, two things. They either see, hey, Jesus loves her, so he can love me, or they see, I love how she loves Jesus as she is, like good and bad, you know? And I think that's so hard to do in today's world, to show that and to show our flaws. And I just wanted to tell moms, like, there's beauty in that, and there's beauty in being real. And that's kind of where I sat with it. And then God was like, "All right, let's do this." So I just jumped in, like you jumped in. I just jumped in.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's so true, Tori. I was talking to somebody else this week earlier, and we were just discussing parts of our past, and she was sharing something with me. And I was just listening to her because she's much older than me. And I was just like, what can I gather from her story, from her experience? And like, how can I use that to like enrich like the way that I'm parenting or the way that I'm experiencing life? And I really do feel like we're all just winging it. We're all just trying to do our best and figure it out as we go. And unfortunately, we are going to mess up along the way. And I think that's why this hits so hard, is that like none of us are perfect. And as much as we may try to pretend, like for real, none of us are perfect. And it's so relatable.
Well, and it is. And like, I feel like the perfection that our hearts desire, it's because we were made for heaven. Like we were made for that perfection in Jesus, and it can only be found in him. But as Satan did in the garden with Adam and Eve, teaching them, hey, you don't need him. You can be him. And we just fall for that lie every day, especially as moms, because so many people need us that we're like, oh, they need me to do this. They need me to do that. No, they just need your love. Like they don't need you to give the most magical Christmas morning ever and then be in debt for 5 months. They don't need the brand new cleats that are $500. Like they just need your love. And they just want to know who you are. And I think that that's another part of perfectionism too, is we don't think we're worth knowing. We think that people just want what they want from us and then they're done, like a transaction. And that's not what God designed us for. He designed us for relationships. So sure, when you put a mask on, people are going to appreciate something that you do, but they're not going to be in relationship with you because they don't know who you really are. And I think that's one of the biggest things too, is like, wow, God actually wants to know me. And that was when I met Spencer and he started asking me all these questions. I was like, why do you want to know me? Like, why do you care about this stuff? And it actually made me mad because nobody else had ever asked me questions like that. Like, hey, why do you believe this? Why do you do this? Why do you think this way? And I started to get angry about it. And one day he was like, why don't you just want me to know your heart? Like, why don't you want me to know that? And I was afraid. Like I didn't want to have someone look into me and see what I knew was there and walk away. Like to be truly known.
Yeah. I want to jump into that a little bit later because I can relate to that so much. But I kind of want to like unpack the God side part of that first.
Yeah.
So you wrote in your blog post, you said, what if he has a heaven-sized, holy-filled, real love dream waiting for you, but it's going to cost you your perfection?
Yeah.
I think you're kind of alluding to that, but what does that mean for you personally?
Yeah. It means giving up how people perceive me and how I live my life. We, in my eyes, have a God-sized dream happening. But sometimes when other people look at it, they're like, oh, they are struggling. And I want to justify it to them. I want to be like, no, like you should see blah, blah, blah. But God's like, hold your tongue, girl. Like you don't have to explain. That's not for them. This is for you. And I watched my parents achieve the American dream and the world fall apart around them to where the only thing they had left was God. And they were perfectionists and they gave everything that they had to the world and it tore them up. And at the end, I watched them give it to God. And after they had lost everything, they had everything because they had Jesus. Wow. And it was so like turn you on your head. It should have destroyed them. And they chose to cling to Jesus and his promises. And it just showed me this world is going to take and take and take until you have nothing left. So even the perfectionist in you, like you're going to keep giving and it's never going to be enough. And we can get into the theological part of like, technically nothing you ever do for God is enough because he's perfect. But when you lay it down covered by the blood of Jesus and you invite him into your life, you're redeemed and covered in grace. And that means you're made perfect because you have him. So when he created you, he didn't create you to strive. He didn't create me to try to control other people's opinions. Right? And it's so hard because here's the thing.
That's what
at the end of the day, Amy, like Amy Grace, I don't want to be the best. I don't want to be the worst, but I don't want to be the best. I don't really want to be seen, period. Like I just want to go through my life doing what's good, giving my kids a good life. I don't want any positive or negative attention. When people think of me, they can think, oh, she's nice. And that's it. Like, that's all that I want. But what if God wanted to take that and really challenge people and be like, hey, Tori, when people think of you, they may think this, but it's going to cause them to dig into who I am. Are you okay with that? And I wasn't. Like, I really wasn't. I was like, God, but I need, right? Like, I need to be good. Like, people need to see that I'm good. And he's like, what if they need to think that you are a certain way in order to find out the truth that I'm all that they need? And that was really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because you just, I don't want people to think I'm a wreck, you know? I don't want people to think that I'm missing out on things, or that any negative thing you can think of, my family's suffering, I'm unhappy, all of these things. I don't want people to think this stuff at all. But if people want to think something in order to draw, for God to use it to draw them closer to him, then how arrogant of me to be like, actually, God, I want them to think this of me so that they stay in this little box and they never dig into the truth of what you've done in my life. But when I start talking about everything that he's done in my life, then I see people start to ask more questions. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I see that this situation I was in, how it can show you, but I have to let people into that mess, right? So that people can actually see who the King of Glory is. Like, it's not my glory, it's his. And that's the hardest part, is recognizing, like, it's not for me, it's for him.
I feel like perfectionism can show up in so many different ways, and for so many different reasons, honestly. And I know for me personally, like, I think a lot of that perfectionism was out of a need for approval. And anybody who listens to the very first episode that I ever recorded, you can kind of hear that theme kind of underlying, like, the whole build up to, like, where honestly, Tori, like, my life completely fell apart to the extent that, like, I could no longer pretend that anything was okay. And it was just like, okay, I really am, like, broken, messed up. All I have left is God. But do you feel like there has been, like, a certain, I guess, tendency for that perfectionism, like whether that's success or approval, or just, like, do you feel like it was tied to more of, like, a faith-driven perfectionism?
You know, I think it can be a both and thing. I wanted approval so people thought I was a good Christian.
Yeah.
You know? And it wasn't like I would sit there thinking, oh, if I do this today, they're going to think this. It was okay, I'm going to do this so that God looks good here. And to a degree, that's not wrong. But when it's based in making yourself look good, that's when it's wrong, right? Like, when you're so focused on how it makes you look. It's like when your kid's having a meltdown in the grocery store, and you know why. You know that they are exhausted. They spent all week at grandma's house. They have had tons of candy and sugar, and they don't know which end is up. So when you tell them no on something, they lose it. And part of me would happily cover their mouths and throw them in the bathroom to get them to be quiet. And then the other part of me is like, okay, let them have it. And then when they're calm, explain to them, hey, we can't do that here because of X, Y, and Z. But sometimes you get so wrapped up on what everybody around you's thinking that you just want people's approval that you're never going to see again. Like, I'm never going to see those people in the grocery store again. So what does it matter when this tiny little human I'm shepherding and raising up, I just destroyed part of their self-confidence for what? 2 minutes of people thinking, oh, that's a great mom. And so
we can all relate to that.
Right? Like, and it's so hard because, discipline comes into that aspect too. And that's a whole other thing. But I think it's both the approval and it was faith driven, because I think that 90s Christianity culture really ingrained the works, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's because every generation before them, it was all about faith, but there was no works being tied along. So then it swung the whole other direction for works-based righteousness. And I feel like eventually it mellowed out. But growing up, it was just, if you're a good person, God loves you.
Mm-hmm.
And so if my kids are good people, God's going to love them. But that's a lie, because God already loves them, like in their brokenness. There's no one in the Bible that didn't have like a knockdown, drag out moment in their life of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one in the Bible that was perfect except for Jesus, right? And I think we get so caught up in thinking our lives need to be that perfect story, when if it's that, how superficial, like how shallow of us not to let God dig deep into like the trenches of our heart to let his glory shine.
Yeah.
You know? It's that verse, like, it's just that verse we always hear that's used way too much, about his thorn in his side being the greatest glory for God. Like, it's a thorn he's always going to have, but God's going to use it to remind him, hey, you need me, but also to show the world, hey, I'm going to do this even if he struggles with this. And I think that's what's hard for me, is there may be a weakness on display for the whole world to see in me, but God's going to use it to show other people that he can use anybody if he can use me.
Yeah. He's got a plan for each of us.
Yeah.
When did you notice, like, was there like a certain incident or a certain time frame that you noticed that the pursuit of perfectionism felt more like pressure rather than purpose?
Yeah. I would say with my first kid, with Elliot.
Don't we all grow so much?
God has taught me so much in motherhood. I think when you become a mom, you become God's kid again in so many ways. And I think it's cyclical. But I was constantly wanting him to do these things. And again, Spencer came in and he was like, why? Like, why does he have to do that? Why does he have to do that? And at first I was offended again and defensive. And I said, well, he just needs to be a good human. He needs to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And Spencer was like, but what purpose does that bring? And I remember we were in Michigan. I can't even believe I'm sharing this story. We were in Michigan and he would not go down for a nap. Like, he would not. He was exhausted. We were with family all day. He was just done. And I was done. Like, I wanted him to take a nap. And he would not go down for a nap. And so I remember going upstairs and I picked him up, not in an aggressive way, but I picked him up and I put him on the bed and I was like, Elliot, you need to sleep. And he said, Mom, I just want to be with you.
Oh.
And I was like, dang it. But you would think with those words that I would be like, oh, okay. Yes. No, I got angry. And I was like, no, Elliot, you need to sleep. And he was sobbing. And I just shut the door and I went downstairs and I told everyone, I was like, listen, he's going to fall asleep in a few minutes. It'll be fine. And I relive so often the look on his face when I told him that. And it just brings such shame to me, because he told me, all I want to do is be with you, because he was excited to be on vacation and be with his family. He needed rest, yes. But could I have laid down with him? Yeah. But I was so focused on getting what I wanted, on getting this nap in so that I could go do what I wanted to do. And I didn't stop. I was just so focused on getting it done and checking it off and being seen as a good mom and getting him to take a nap and then getting my time alone, that I missed a relationship moment where I could have explained, because I just wanted what I wanted. And I think of that so often nowadays, especially now that he's older. But in that moment, I was just like, man, I need this. And now looking back, I'm like, you missed it. You missed what that moment was. And thank God there's grace, and
Absolutely.
that he has helped me and he has covered that. And years later, I talked to Elliot about it because he remembered it.
Does he really?
And He does. He has a great memory. It's honestly annoying. But like, it's like he remembers every good thing and every bad thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was in that moment that I was like, if I try to be perfect, I'm going to lose my relationship with them. I am, because they're going to be so focused on performing for me that they're going to miss the relationship that God has here. Because what value is there in going to see a movie where everything's perfect in it? Like, nobody's invested in that. They're not going to go back and see that because there's no emotion, there's no grit, like there's no redemption. But in a story of like forgiveness in real life and having to forgive and having to ask for your kids' forgiveness, it's just such a real display of the gospel that, but it's hard.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
And I feel like
so hard.
that story is like so relatable, because how often are we just doing that on the regular at bedtime? Our kids are like,
Yeah.
will you sit with me? Will you sing me one more song? Will you read me one more story?
Yeah.
And they are just craving that relationship. They're not trying to be, quote, bad kids. They just want that time with you. And I think so often I know for me, because I'm very much of a checklist person, like, let's get it done. Like, let's finish it up. Like, I want to see it checked off. And when we get so task oriented and we forget to prioritize the relationship while we're doing the task, we can miss out on so much that we don't even notice in the moment. It's like when we're looking back and we're like, that was a relational moment, not just a task moment.
Yeah. I think that's couldn't be put better. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with getting tasks done and raising them to obey rules and to follow directions. But again, I think there's moments like that one where I could have taken 2 minutes to sit with him and explain it, or to let him fall asleep and then leave the room. But I just wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. And I wanted people to think a certain thing about me. And so I sacrificed a moment with my kid that could have been a gospel moment to have an approval moment from the world. And it was then that I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's not good for them. It's not why God let me be their mom, to shepherd them. Like, I would never want someone to treat me like that. And when Spencer digs deep into why I do things, it wasn't until he started digging deep that I realized I was a little bit of a perfectionist, not because I wanted to get everything perfect. I just never wanted it to be bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the point of the gospel, though. Like, you're never going to do it all right, but he's going to love you anyways because you're his kid.
Yeah.
And I never want my kids to get in a situation where they can't think, I can't call mom. Like, I don't want them to ever think, oh gosh, I can't call mom, I messed up. I want them to think it's what you see over and over again. Like, I got to call mom. I got to talk to mom and dad. And I, for so long, lived under the lie that I couldn't call mom and dad. And I just don't want that for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I just had to lay it down.
Yeah. Even relating that back to like our relationship with God, like how often are we like, oh, like we're trying to like fix it on our own rather than like going to God and saying like, God, I really messed this situation up. Like, now what do I do? And I think you wrote in your blog, you said, here's the heart of it. God wants more than perfect for you. He wants real. And I think like that's kind of what we're getting at in this conversation. But what do you feel like it looks like to be real in your own walk with God right now?
I think you have to be unashamed of the gospel truth of your story.
I love that. Yeah.
There's so many times in my life I can be tempted to turn it to my own glory. But when I am open and honest about everything that God has done in my life, from my dad losing it all and going to prison and us having to move, to getting married to Spencer and having fights because he wanted to know more about me and I didn't want to let him in, to having kids and having to realize people are going to think I'm a fool sometimes because I'm letting my kids be themselves, because that's what God wants.
Yeah.
And so I could take each and every one of those moments and turn it to, oh, I can be a good mom, or, oh, I'm a perfect wife because I'm not going to tell you about this, or, oh, I lived a perfect childhood because my mom and dad did this. I can flip all of it if I really wanted to. But when I sit there and realize each of those stories helps people see the truth of the gospel and that you're never too far gone, or you're never too far unseen. Like, you can never camouflage yourself enough to hide from the love of Jesus.
Yeah.
And the power in that, I mean, how selfish would I be to not show his glory through my story? Because I mean, that's what we're here for. We're not here to be perfect people walking around, check off church on Sundays, check off a fancy dinner at home every single night, which we do not have. And like to, check off like perfect athlete, perfect grades, because we have none of that.
Yeah.
But why pretend that our lives are like that and isolate ourselves when we could show the real grit, dirty mess of all that God's done and how he's turned it for his good and glory?
Yeah.
Like, and he does that with everything. When you let him, you just have to lay it down at his feet and sacrifice that perfection just to be real. It's like the whole Velveteen Rabbit thing. I love that, because the more real you are, the more scars you're going to have. It's just life. Like, you're just going to have more scars, and because it's a battle for eternity.
Yeah.
But if you choose to just sit on the sidelines so that you don't get damaged and your moneymaker face doesn't get messed up, at the end, you're going to stand before God and be like, well, I never got in any trouble. And he said, well, there's holy trouble you could have gotten into that you missed out for me, girl. Like, and I don't want that. I don't want that at all. And it's just hard because it's such a fight. But it's for souls. So you got to let him do what he's going to do.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you went that direction, because I was actually going to bring that up next, because like, I do feel like being real is scary, especially in a world where everyone is displaying their highlight reel and putting on that perfect picture. And I think that subconsciously we're all striving to fit in with all of these perfect pictures and all of these highlight reels, when in reality, we're all struggling. We all have a story underneath all of that. And if we're willing to take it to the cross and say, God, here's my story. It is messed up. I am struggling. He wants to rewrite it with us, but we have to be willing to give over that control to him, because honestly, we're not doing a great job at writing it ourselves. But how it is that struggle of like releasing that control of like, okay, God, I'm going to hand it over to you. But going back to that story of the Velveteen Rabbit, when you shared that quote in your blog, like I just cried, like I sobbed. I was like, I have to have her on the podcast. So the very first time that I read that quote, betrayal was still very fresh in our story. And I always kind of go back to that quote as it just kind of brings up a lot of emotion for me. And I just want to read it because I kind of want to break it down. It says, you become, it takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily or have sharp edges or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in your joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to the people who don't understand. And I think we're all terrified to be that real, because what if we're not loved when we are that real? And I think that just that underlying message from the Velveteen Rabbit of just that love and connection are what make us real. It's like the sauce of life. Like if you are not real, you don't have that love, you don't have that connection. Like what is the point? But also I feel like it just conveys that like realness is vulnerability, and there is hard in being real. And like sometimes it's the realness that leads us to that transformation. Anyways, I would love to know kind of just what does that story speak to about, let me see if I can word this right. What about the story speaks to you about the idea of becoming real?
Yeah. Gosh, I'm going to cry. I think of my parents every time I hear that quote. Because again, to me, they were perfect in everything that they did, not because everything was perfect, but because they loved me. And I watched them do everything right, everything, to better us, and also do everything right to better the world around us. And by all means, they lived a perfect life. And then when my dad ended up making some mistakes on the SWAT department and going to jail, and his realness was exposed, I saw so many people leave. People that we thought were real friends, people that we thought would love us forever. I saw them leave. And I just was amazed at who left, but I was also amazed at who stayed and said, we see this and we see these mistakes that you've made, but we're going to love you through them, and we're going to love your family through them. And it was so ugly. Our names were in papers, and we had to move because of safety reasons and all of this stuff that just is so much baggage that my parents had to carry. But I saw God redeem what could have been broken into something so real and so beautiful that I couldn't deny the gospel anymore. And now that I'm married and have kids, the story hits even more because they didn't have to be real with us kids. They didn't have to be honest. They didn't have to fight for each other the way that they did. But they chose to be real and show their, I don't like calling it ugly because I don't think it's ugly to God. I think he takes the thorns in our side and he makes them beautiful. But he chose to use their thorns to glorify his own story of grace and redemption. And if God can redeem that, to me, he can redeem anything if you lay it at his feet. And so every time I think of the Velveteen Rabbit, I think of my parents, because they could have just given up, but they dug and they got messier. And by the world's view, they got uglier and they got poorer and they got just thrown to the side. But God takes those of us that are discarded and he just turns us into the most beautiful stained glass masterpieces. And to me, that's what he did with my parents. And I'm just so thankful for that, because it showed me what matters and what's important. And that nothing is ever too far gone to be made real if you lay it at his feet.
I'm going to cry, Tori, because hearing that from you, I can only hope that my kids will say of that about their parents fighting to stay together. Thank you for sharing that. I know that's not easy.
Of course.
What would you say to someone who does fear that if they drop that mask of perfection, that people might not accept them? Because I do think that we're all going to run that risk of, like, when we are real, there are going to be some people that just can't handle it or that choose to walk away. What would you say?
You know, most people may walk away. Most of ours did, actually. But I would rather have people be in relationship with me and know me in my heart and choose to love that and be fully known than to just be a transaction for someone, because that's what I want for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want them to know, I don't want them to think that life is full of transactions. I want them to think that life is full of relationships. I think that's why kid friendships are so beautiful, because they offer nothing. Like, they become best friends over nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And like, they're like, oh, you love the color pink? Me too. Let's go play for hours on the playground and then we'll be best friends. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so to me, why would you want to wear a mask just to please people that are going to leave you the second that you do something wrong, when you could be in relationship with two people who truly care about you and want to know you for you? Here's the deal. Jesus only had 12. Like, and one of them left. Like, I mean, so even Jesus had a select few group of people that he loved and he trusted and that he dug into relationship with. Mm-hmm. He didn't have 50,000. He didn't have 40. He had 12. And I can't help but think, do I want a transactional marriage, or do I want a real relationship marriage?
Yeah.
Do I want transactional kids, or do I want real relationship? And the truth is that when I'm 80, they're not going to come visit me if it's transactional, right? Like, they're going to come visit me if it's real, and if it's ugly, and if it's beautiful, and if it's redeemed. Like, that's when they're going to, that's what they want. And that's what I want. And so to people that are afraid of putting down the mask, relationship and real is just so much better than a highlight reel. When I got married, I was still living with my parents, and my dad wrote me a note and put it on the pillow that morning. And he said, remember to enjoy every moment leading up to it, not just the wedding itself. And remember to enjoy every moment after it, because life is a journey. And I read it and I was like, oh, thanks, Dad. He was being sweet. And now looking back, I'm like, I get it. It's not about the checkoff moments. Mm-hmm. Yes, we got married and the wedding was fun, but it was a few hours in a lifetime. We talk about it on occasion. It was wonderful. But you know what we talk about more? That one time that our house flooded and we had to get all this stuff out, and it was dirty and it was nasty. And we talk about the late nights with the kids where they were up all night, or we talk about the wonderful vacations that we were blessed to go on. You don't talk about just the good stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about the entire journey. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what matters. And that's what God uses in our story. He doesn't use the big, look at me, this is what I'm doing moments. He uses the, holy crap, I don't know what I'm doing, God. Like, I'm gonna give this to you. It's like the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. Like, the kid didn't know what he was gonna do with that food. He just gave up the food. We're not responsible for the miracle. We're just responsible for the obedience of it. And so whatever's in our story, when we let go of our perfection, we're not responsible for what he's going to do with our story. We're just responsible for giving it to him. And if our story if our story can help one person, then it's worth it, because that's one more person that we get to see on the other side of eternity. And they're like, hey, your story helped get me here. Mm-hmm. It's not a, hey, your Facebook really helped me get here. Or your story about your kid being perfect on Christmas morning, or your pictures really helped get me here. It's your real, vulnerable, raw story helped me see the goodness of God.
Yeah. Yeah. And how easy it is to forget that in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
When we're just...
especially in social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tori, I want to kind of wrap things up, but how do you feel like grace has redefined your understanding of worth or success?
Yeah, I'm not defined by what I do. I'm not defined by what I've accomplished. That can be taken away tomorrow. I'm not defined by my kids. I'm not defined by my marriage. I'm not defined by my job. My only title in this life is child of God.
Mm-hmm. So powerful.
And as like pertaining to grace, it just covers it all. Mm-hmm. And if I can't walk in grace, knowing that he's covered all of my shortcomings and that he has covered all of my mistakes and all of my disobedience, and he's covered all of my love, and he's covered all of my joy, and he's covered all of my goodness and kindness, all the fruits. If I can't acknowledge that grace covers all of that, then I don't get the truth of the gospel. And I don't get why he came. But if I can walk in grace every day, seeing that it's not about a measuring stick. Grace messes up your measuring stick, like in all sorts of ways. There is no measuring stick after you discover grace, because you just realize it covers everything.
Yeah.
Like, I hate when people are like, hey, rank what's important to you. Obviously God's first, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, God is in all of it. Yeah. Like, that's just a given. Like, because grace covers all of it. Grace doesn't just cover my marriage or my kids or my job or my friendship. Like, it covers all of it, because nothing we do is ever truly good enough to give over to our Savior, who created us and created our world, unless it's covered by the blood of Jesus, because we were bought with a price. Mm-hmm. So you have to live like you're bought with a price. And part of that is humbling yourself to realize that grace is needed in everything. Even when you get it right, you still need grace.
Yeah.
Because eventually you're going to get it wrong. But
so true.
I feel like it's such a Christian, like, I don't know, hokey thing to say of, yeah, like grace covers everything. And, you put that on a card and you move on. But living it and walking it out every day, you just have to learn to be content in all of your circumstances. Mm-hmm. Because that's what grace is.
Yeah. And I love, Tori, where you said God is in all of it when you're talking about like ranking. I don't know that I've ever heard it put so plainly that like God truly is in all of it, and his grace covers all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom said that one time. We were talking about something, and she said, I just get so annoyed at people that are like, well, obviously we know God is first in your life, and then like it's your marriage and then your kids. That's how it's supposed to be. And she said, because God's in all of it. Like, you don't just check him off like he's part of a checklist. Like, he's in every single bit of it. So if you rank him first, like, is he not in your marriage? Is he not with your kids? And it just has been such a good reminder for me that it's not a list. It's covered over everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just something that you check off, like your relationship with God, just like your relationship with your kids. You don't just check it off.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your husband, you don't just check it off. It's in everything that you do, and it motivates everything that you do. And to me, that's what your relationship with God is. You got to walk like he's right there with you in every moment, because he is in every moment, every single moment.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I know that you've got to go, so I've got one more question for you. How do you stay grounded in the realness when the world keeps rewarding that polished and curated version of us?
Yeah, we weren't made for this world. We were made for eternity. And if your ultimate goal in life is to bring home a trophy that sits on the top of your cabinet and just gets dusty, what are you living for? Your goal is to be battered and bruised when you cross that finish line and have God look at you and say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And I've never seen a faithful servant metaphor of any kind where the servant didn't have to give up something because they're serving,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going to have to give up things for the kingdom. Look at Jesus. He was perfect and he had to give everything.
Yeah.
Why would we expect any less?
Yeah.
Why would we expect that God would be like, okay, my son gave it all, but you're good. You can get here not having to ever sacrifice everything. Every single relationship you enter into, you have to sacrifice something for.
Mm.
Whether
That's a
it's
good
your
reminder.
marriage or it's your marriage or it's your kids or it's your job. And there's certain ones, I think of sports most often and jobs, because I feel like that's what we praise the most in society. We praise sports and we praise careers.
Mm-hmm.
And people, they cheer on all the sacrifices that you make for those things. They're like, this is awesome. I had to do this. I had to do that. But then when a mom starts talking about what she has to sacrifice for her kids, they're like, oh, well, why'd you have to give that up? Or for your marriage, you have to sacrifice something. They're like, oh, well, then he's not letting you be your real self if you have to sacrifice that. And it's like, nah, fam, like, that's not it. You sacrifice for those that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with God. You have to sacrifice. And that's okay, because sacrifice is not a bad thing. You're giving up something little to get immeasurably more than you could ever ask or imagine. That's my life right now. It's immeasurably more than I could have ever planned for on my own. And now, is it picture perfect? No, definitely not. I actually stepped in cow poop coming up here, and and that was my daughter opening the door. I actually stepped in cow poop. My daughter just interrupted our podcast message and is again, I'll get him in just a minute. But it's just life.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. And it's more than I could have ever asked or imagined. Why? Because I have a grass where cows can poop. And because I have a daughter who wants to tell me something that's probably not important at all, but to her, it's super important. And I'm getting interrupted for that. And it's those holy interruptions that you're like, yeah, God, you've given me immeasurably more than I could have ever asked or imagined. And that's what makes dropping the perfectionism worth it, because he's worth it all.
Yeah. I always think how beautifully imperfect our stories are when we invite God in and we just let him rewrite those imperfect moments. And then we see his redemption all around us in all the ways that, had he not come in and walked beside us and rewritten our stories, how differently it could be.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the imperfection is where he shines. It's that whole stained glass thing that you see. And I love in the Prince of Egypt where they talk about, I'm a huge Prince of Egypt geek, but they talk about the single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shines, when you flip over that quilt, it's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the front of it, it's this beautiful masterpiece. But you look at the back and you're like, oh, they messed up here and they messed up there. And what is that? And God's like, no. That's where I'm doing my best work.
Yeah,
like, that's where I'm thriving. That's where I'm going to show you how great I am. And I just can't help but think, if I don't show that to people and let people in, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, Tori, we're going to close it out. But if there was one last thing you could share with our audience, what would it be? Any closing thoughts?
I think my biggest thing right now that I'm sitting in with God is that He loves you no matter what. Nothing you could ever do will ever separate you from that. So don't be afraid to expose your weakness, because that's where He's going to shine.
Amen.
And I think that's it.
I love it. I love it. Tori, thank you so much for sharing your heart and reminding us that God's not looking for our highlight reel. He's after our heart. And maybe the most beautiful thing we can ever be is real. That line from your piece keeps echoing in my heart. If you're not real, people can't love who you truly are. And the truth is, they will love who you truly are. Better yet, God already does. He doesn't need your perfection. Jesus already took care of that. He just wants you. Friends, maybe that's your reminder today that God isn't asking for your perfect version. He's asking for your present one, the tired, messy, beautiful you that He handcrafted on purpose. Tori, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor, and I just love what you're doing. You're changing the kingdom one conversation at a time. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you. If this episode spoke to you, go check out Tori's writing. I'll link her Substack and socials in the show notes. And if something stirred in your spirit today, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message or share this episode with a friend who might need to hear it too. Until next time, remember, your story, even the imperfect parts, can be the very thing that helps you rise from the ashes.